Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Carlin, for believing in me and in my work, because I'm just grateful. So thank you. And I want to thank everyone for being here, because it's just a joy. And in these, horrible times that we're all going through, art is so uplifting, that to be able to see all your beautiful faces and share my story means a lot to me. So thank you. So I'm a minimalist. I work and live in Venice Beach, California. And I'm just grateful every day that I get to do what I love doing. I want to start by just reading something very briefly, because this really explains my story. I think in order to understand my work, which looks so simplistic, I think it would be beneficial for you to hear this little story. My daughter, who's a writer, I wrote the first line, and then she wrote this from me because she just knows my heart and my soul so well. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just read this. It explains me. It's called The Emergence of an Artist. Art is essential to artists in the same way that humans require air or water. I never paid much attention to this theory until the night my dad died. Shocked and devastated by the news that my father was gone, I paced the hallway of my house after somehow managing to tuck my skinny young sons into their beds at the end of the worst day of my life. Although I reassured them that everything would be okay, in the back of my mind, I knew I was lying. I journeyed right through the bedroom and into my dressing room, and it was there with perfect animation and without a thought that I sat down in a chair, unfolded a crumbled napkin from the trash can, and thoughtlessly pulled out a pencil from the drawer, and I drew my first piece of work. It was nothing more than a perfect square, immaculate in its shape, and as perfect as my dad. I then opened up my dresser drawer, and I pulled out a cuticle scissors, and I cut out a triangle in one of the quadrants. And I crumbled up that triangle, and I tossed it into the trash. And I remember saying, my perfect life is over. My dad's gone. I was 33 years old then, and I'm 67 now. So what happened, now I'll put this down I was so overwhelmed with grief, but I'm an optimist, and I learned that from my father. And I broke out in a sweat, I remember. I reached down, grabbed that triangle out of the trash. I squished it, and I knew I couldn't put the triangle back into the square because I knew my life would never be the same. But I knew that I would keep him alive. I would keep him alive by being positive and by sharing his stories with my children. And so I took that triangle and I placed it on my dressing table next to the square. And I named it Peace, P-I-E-C-E, because a piece of me was missing, but I was at peace, P-E-A-C-E, knowing that I was going to keep my dad alive, whether he was here or not. And so that became my first piece of art. I did it. My father was a car lover, a vintage car lover. So I painted it in Ferrari Rosa Corsa red. And everything that I've ever done has been through emotion. And as a minimalist, minimalism is, from what I understand, it's you're not supposed to have meaning to your pieces. Your pieces are just there. But my minimalism is based on the emotional palette that we all feel as human beings, because we all share the same emotional palette. We all have fear and love and joy and anger and all of the palette that we can feel. Each one of my pieces has a deep meaning to it or a story. And so when I sit down and I say, oh, I feel like drawing today, I'm just going to draw a shape, it never works. It only works if I'm feeling something deep inside. Okay, so here's the work page of my website. And this is Peace. It's the first piece I did. It's 48 by 48 by 3 inches. I did the first one in 1986. And I did another one like it, and I'm so proud because it's in the lobby of the Ventura County Art Museum in their permanent collection. It's been there for about 10 years. I started doing my art when I was 33, but I didn't become an active artist until I turned 50, and that was 17 years ago. So this is this piece. This is called On Point. I had one of my gallerists that I work with developed breast cancer, and the way that she dealt with it was so strong. And so I built this piece in honor of her. It's called On Point. And each of these sides of this point reflects a quality that she had in surviving: strength, dignity, fierceness. And so this piece is called On Point because she really was on point. This one is energies, and it's just about this enormous energy that we have within us, and how do we use it? What do we do with it? And so we let it leave our bodies with zest and jump out into the world. So these pieces are on the ceiling up here. They're on the walls over here. This is a strong piece, and actually, Carlin, I know you have this piece in Maserati Yellow in the gallery. It's a very important piece to me. It's called Foundation. And the way that I came up with that is I decided, in thinking primarily about my father, who was born with a congenital heart problem in Montreal, and my grandparents moved from Montreal to Los Angeles because the doctors in Saint Adele told them that they needed to get him into sunshine. We are all built with a framework of our foundation. We're good at some things, we're not good at others. And so in designing this piece and having that emotion of just who are we and what are we made of, we have strengths. So say, for example, the one down here, the rectangle down here, that shows maybe our strongest point. And then maybe a part of us that's not quite as strong in our foundation, and then maybe our weakest. For my father, it was his health. For his strength, it was his determination to live the most beautiful life that he possibly could live. And so I love this piece. It's very long. It's 68 inches long, and it's one of my favorites. This one's called Au revoir. And it's what would happen if we took all of the negative energy within us and we just flipped it and had it move out into the world, and we got rid of it from within us, and then we have all of this open space that we can fill with positivity. This piece I did in Maserati Yellow, just to show that kind of vibrance. This is Family, and Family is a piece. One of the viewers here is a very close friend of mine, Andy Hero. You'll see her in a minute, but she's sitting in front of a yellow piece of mine. And she and her husband commissioned me many, many years ago to do a piece, and we did it about their family. It's Andy and her husband and their 2 sons. And so it's called Family. And this is, I guess, the fabric of the family. Each one is one of the members of the family. And then they break out and they do their own thing. You know, they kind of go off into the world. And this piece can be, and has been, installed many different ways, where the negative cutouts or the positive cutouts are flying through space in many different directions, or they're clustered together, showing that the family, you know, is united and traveling as one, which usually doesn't happen because as our kids get older, you know, they kind of go their own way. There it is in yellow. Let me get to some of that. There's the one that you have, Carlin. See, here's Family in Lamborghini green, showing that, you know, the family moves and travels. This one's called Confide, but I want to show it to you in yellow. Here it is. This is Confide, and it's confiding in those that you feel really close to and breaking out into the world. And although you travel alone, you always have each other. It could be friends, family members, or whoever. For me, it was my girlfriends. And Andy, you're one of them. This is called Follow the Leader. This, I was looking through an old high school, I guess, yearbook, and I was remembering those times when everybody wanted to follow that leader. You always wanted to be near that person, whoever was the smartest or the most popular or the best athlete. And so I did this piece, and this one is the largest. That would be the leader. And then everybody's sort of trailing off after that person, trying to get close to them. It was just sort of a down memory lane. It was a positive piece. Lean on me. Who do we lean on? Who do we lean on in times when we really need them, when we need to share joy with someone, and when we need help or we're troubled or worried? Who is that person that you lean on? For me, it's my husband. and who I met when I was 14 and he was 15. And we're married almost 47 years. So to me, when I need someone, really need them, I turn to him. So I did this piece. Another one that I did in black, Lean on Me Again. Let me see if this is air. You know how, now this is kind of a funny piece. I was laughing. We have 3 children. And isn't it so funny how one of your kids always sucks up all the air in the room at one time? And if it's not one, it's the other. So I built this and I built this piece, and here it is. This is the one that at that moment in time, I guess, needed me the most. But it also, to me, it's the emotion of being wanted, being needed, whether it's with your friends, your business associates, or your family. It's, you know, who needs you or who do you need at that moment? Bounce. It's bouncing out into the world and making yourself known with whatever that means, whether it's being a good friend, being successful at business, or just trying. If you don't try, you don't succeed. You know, it's very safe to be in our little world here that I'm showing you. I hope you can see my cursor. And when you're safe and you don't take risks, then you never know what you can accomplish. So this piece called Bounce is let's bounce out, and at least for me, and try something. I tried art. I started becoming an active artist at 50. Who knew? This piece down here is basically on the same genre. Another one that just shows breaking out of your mold and trying. This is Chance, and Chance is taking a chance. And I dedicated this one to our oldest son, who went to law school and got a JD MBA and then decided to do something crazy, not ever practicing law, and creating the world's largest Nike shoe collection that he curated and actually opened a museum. And so I did this because Jordan was brave to do this. He just broke out of the mold. This is Berlin. I went to visit my daughter who was studying abroad in Berlin, and I loved that city. I fell in love with that city. And what I found that fascinated me about that city was here you have old Berlin with the war, and then you have new Berlin. And new Berlin, I found the people to be lovely, apologetic for what happened. They're trying to come together with old Berlin and new Berlin. There will always be that thread of history. But this shows the 2 parts of Berlin, both old and new. I found that very, very meaningful. Another version of Berlin. And here we go again. This one, which you have, Carlin, at the gallery, this is a piece that, again, just it's conviction. It's deciding and making a plan for what you feel you want. For me, it's conviction to be the best person I can possibly be. I did this piece in Ford Shelby blue, which is a gorgeous deep blue, very reflective, and it's breaking out of your mold with conviction. And the fact that, you know, this is a shape with points shows that I'm about to travel. I'm going to travel into the world, and I'm going to fulfill my conviction. So I think this kind of gives you a broad view of, you know, what my work is like. I'm not the presenter anymore, right, Carlin?
That's correct.
Okay. I have a piece here that I can walk over and show you, which is in my living room here, and it's called Oblivion. Let's see if you're able to see it. Maybe you can see that a bit. So what that piece is it's made of wood and black matte automotive paint. And it speaks to our life on a timeline and all of the different parts or sections of our life that define us, you know, childhood or whatever it might be. One of these to me has a new meaning, and it's this pandemic. It's a point in my life that I never thought I didn't even know that it would ever happen. I mean, I knew about the Spanish flu, but now when I look at that piece of art, I see that one of those slivers within the time frame of my life is what we're living through. So I hope that that gives you a good understanding of why my minimalism has, you know, I think my soul poured into it.
Thank you for sharing those images with us, Lori. And I find that this is really helping me to understand your language. Your language, your artistic language, is so distinct, and you've developed this very articulate vocabulary with the smallest of gestures. I really find it fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, especially coming from you. Can I introduce Andy here? Andy Hero is in a suburb of Palm Springs right now. And Andy, wave. Would you wave? There. And Andy is sitting in front of a piece of mine. And that piece is called Patience. It's a piece that I designed where I designed it and did it first in Scrubs blue, the color of a doctor's Scrubs blue. And I named it Patience for my father, who was a dentist, and two of his brothers who were doctors. So they've all gone. They're all passed away. But it talks about the patience in their hearts that they had for the patients in their chairs. And it's a really strong piece for me. I did it for the Heroes as a commission in Maserati Yellow. And then, Andy, can you take your computer and to kind of see there's three missing rectangles. My father's the bottom one, my Uncle Lou, my Uncle Jack. And then those three.
Get a better view.
Yeah. Pardon me?
I'm going to walk it over so you can get a better view.
Okay, there we go. And there are the three missing pieces. And I named it Patience because they had such patience in their hearts. Andy also has behind her in her home a set of cubes. And so these are chatterboxes. And I developed this genre because I was at Art Hampton and I was around a table. Well, let's look at the piece first and then I'll explain it. These are chatterboxes. They start in this installation with 7-inch cubes at the top. And then they move down. I think we did a 4-inch at the bottom. Andy, can you move over towards the bottom as it moves down? Yeah, there we go. And then they go all the way almost to the floor. So the story behind these chatterboxes is that I was at an art fair. I was at Art Hampton's, and I was at an oval table with many different people that I didn't know. There were artists, there were gallery owners, and people didn't know each other. Very few of us knew each other. And I looked at this oval table, and all of a sudden I saw these people kind of perched and turned looking at each other. Maybe this person was looking at that person in conversation. And then over here, this person was trying to get in on that conversation. And all of a sudden in my head, I was exhausted from the art fair. I saw polished stainless steel chatterboxes on a wall where each chatterbox is pointed and pivoted towards another. They're talking to each other. I actually have one here to show you. So this is a 6-inch polished stainless steel chatterbox. So there's a screw. I don't know if you can see it. You might not be able to see it real well, but it's a screw. So it screws into the wall. And then once it's in the wall, you pivot it so that this cube is going to talk to the next cube. And then maybe, so for example, on Andy's, you've got two cubes together. They're in conversation, but the one way up on top that she's way up on top, the 7-inch, that's kind of entering the room, and it wants to know who it should talk to. So it's about communication. It's about involving yourself emotionally with other people. So that's that whole series. Thank you, Andy.
You're welcome.
I have to say, Lori, that's a first where we have had the artist directed one of the lunch participants, turning them into a camera person. It's great. Andy, you have another piece you were going to show us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so Andy has the piece that I told you that I did the night my father passed away, which is called Peace, I did one for Andy and her husband in this gorgeous Mercedes navy blue. And what you're going to see when you see it in her bedroom right now is the major reflection from the golf course behind her, which shows how reflective my work is. So I know it's hard for you to see the cutout, but
over this way so you can really
okay.
see.
But you will. Okay, so that's the golf course reflecting in it. Probably hard to see the missing triangle, but Andy will show you where that triangle is on the wall.
Can you see the piece?
Yes.
We can see the piece. We need to see the little triangle. There you go. Okay. So my work is very, very reflective when I use polished, high gloss paint. I also do work in matte finishes, but I love the reflection. I can see palm trees in there.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's
Thank
really
you.
Gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
Wow.
great having you, Andy. Okay. So what do we do next, Carlin?
Well, people, I don't know. Let's hear what people have to say. I'm sure there are some people who've got some questions about your work. Now's a good time to ask them. You can either do it through the chat or just turn your microphone on and go for it. Maybe wave and I'll come to you so that we're not all speaking at once. Okay, Kim.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Kim, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Hi, Lori.
Hi,
It's just fabulous to hear the story behind your work, because on first view, of course, it looks very, very formal, focusing on the formal elements of art, pattern, color, space, and so on. But then when we hear the story, your work is so very, very expressive. And I love that. I love that. So thank you so much for sharing such intimate sharings. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. That means a lot to me, Kim. I appreciate it. I see a question here from Cheryl Wilson Smith saying, what materials are you using? Hi, Cheryl. So the materials vary. Most of the time I use, for my wall pieces, I use one of two. Primarily, I use automotive paint on wood and laminate. So pieces are built out of wood, and then laminate is put on top of it to just keep everything very tight, so that there's no grain that comes through. And then once that happens, the big piece of art is now taken and treated exactly like a car. So it's bondoed, it's block sanded, it's bondoed again, it's block sanded to get it as even as possible. And then all of the layers of automotive paint are then put on layer after layer after layer, many, many layers. And then it's, sanded, lightly sanded in between. And then the poly coats of the finish go on, several of those. And so the work is all hand built, but it looks like it's perfect. There's something with each little piece because they are not manufactured, which I love about that. I also do work out of metal. I use a lot of stainless steel. So my chatterboxes are out of stainless steel. When I am commissioned to do large outdoor pieces, the piece that Andy's sitting in front of, the yellow piece, I did in a much larger version for a collector in Florida outdoors. And I did that out of stainless steel, built the whole thing out of stainless steel, and then put the he wanted it in high gloss black. And so then the automotive paint went on that. So if the pieces are going outside, they're not going to be built out of wood. I also work with aluminum. Aluminum gives a much softer look to it. I like brushed aluminum. It really has a very different look than stainless steel. It's a little bit softer in its durability, but for little standing pieces, which I do tabletop pieces, I like to use that as well. So those are my materials. how do you find inspiration in this time of chaos? How do I find inspiration in this time of, well, I work best under chaos, Abby, as you know, right? I'm a very ADHD person, and I pretty much have a hard time sitting still. So when chaos is happening around me, like we're in right now, this pandemic, my brain just starts to spin. And I push myself to those limits at that time to think about what am I feeling, what it's coming from my heart, and then it's going to my brain. So what am I feeling here, and how does that translate up here into my drawing? This is a napkin of the first piece I ever did that night in 1986. Of course, I just drew it this morning on a napkin so you can see, but I'll draw on anything the minute I'm feeling an emotion. And so that's how I operate best. Let's see. Okay, those are my questions. So is there anything else that I can answer? Let's see. This is Dana. I loved how you addressed sorry, not the best eyes. The reflective quality of your work. Can you talk about the shadows? Yes. How much do you think about the depth of each wall piece and the shadows they cast? I was especially drawn to the black one. Okay, so to answer your question, and I'm really glad that you raised this, thank you. To me, my shadows are as important as the art, because everything to me is the positive and the negative. So you've got a piece and something's missing, and so those missing pieces are somewhere, and I've had collectors put them in other rooms. Where, a large piece is in the living room, and then you go into the dining room and there are the three little missing pieces on that wall in another room. And actually guests think that they hit the jackpot because they'll sit down at a dinner party and say, oh my goodness, those three pieces, didn't they go to that? Wait, does it really fit? So it's quite fun. But the shadows, when it's lit properly, the shadows of my work are really deep, and they can be very dark. And I know, Andy, you have that going on with both pieces, but particularly your cubes, your chatterboxes form these, they dance on the wall. The shadows will dance on the wall when they're lit properly. And so that's a huge part of my work. And let's see, what was the rest of it? How much do you think about the depth of each wall piece? Wait. How much do you think about the depth? Oh, well, okay. So here's what happens. When I'm designing a piece, I'm designing it based on the emotion. So I think about the shape. I think about what is my feeling. So for example, foundations. My feeling on that piece was, when I was designing it, I had the idea that we all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. What are our strengths? And I thought that all we are to begin with is our foundation of who we are, what genetically, and then what we've acquired through the world that we live in. That is such the basis of who we are. I wanted that piece to be strong. I wanted that piece to be heavy. I wanted that piece to be big. So I designed it. It turned out to be 68 or 70 inches long. It's 28 inches wide, and it's 4 inches thick. I wanted it super thick. I wanted it to look like it was stuck on that wall as the foundation of who we are. So when I'm doing something that's lighter and more frivolous, like kids bouncing out into the world, I might do that piece in a 2-inch thick piece, deep piece, because I want it to look like there's more movement to the piece. So the thinner I design the piece in depth, the more movement it looks like, kinetic movement on the wall. But so for that foundation piece, I wanted it really strong. For this piece behind Andy, that one, I think Andy is that's a big piece. I forget how big that piece is, but I think we did a 4-inch thick. I wanted that. That is my father and his 2 brothers who were raised without a father, 11 kids, all went to medical school. I wanted that strong for the patients that they gave their patients. So that's how I decide on depth and size and thickness and, on and on. What's it like to work with automotive paint, and do you need higher ventilation? Okay. What's it like to work with automotive paint? Now, here's my big time secret. Are you ready? Here it is. I had a really hard time struggling with whether or not I was truly an artist for many, many years, because I don't paint my own work and I don't build my own work. I work with people who do it with me, but I can't do it myself. I don't know how to be a professional auto painter. And for a long time, I thought, I can't possibly be an artist because I'm not painting. I'm not doing it. I'm in the shop. I'm helping with the colors. I'm doing all of that. I'm designing the work. I'm making big paper patterns and putting them all over my house when my husband wakes up in the morning. And so I struggled with that for a very long time. And as galleries started taking my work in, I always felt insecure about that. Like, I'm not really an artist. What am I? Am I a designer? I don't know what I am. I had a conversation with a art history professor. His name is Walter Meyer. He's an LA guy. We sat down and we talked about it. And I also told him that I never went to art school. In my day, being 67 years old, my parents said, you're going to go to USC and get a teaching credential, which I did, because that's what girls did then. And so here I am designing these pieces. I didn't go to art school. I don't build it myself. I'm in the shop with them, but I don't build it and I don't paint it myself. So am I really an artist? And he said, yes, you are. You are what's called an outsider. I teach about outsiders. You're just doing your thing on your own, and you're designing and envisioning the work and making sure that it's perfect by getting the best help you can. So that's, and I still struggle with that a lot. But you know what? I never did this to have it be a profession. I did this because I missed my dad. And I did this because I'm full of emotion. And if it ever took off and people wanted to buy it, that's great. But I didn't do it to prove anything. I just did it because I need to do art. So whoever I am and whatever I'm made of, that's just what you get with me.
Seems to me, Lori, when I look at your work, it reminds me very much of music and a kind of music notation. I don't know if you were with us when Elise Toucher was talking about her work last week in one of these chats. And, she argued that music was her first language. And when you see this little dot on the page, it can be a dot on a page, or if you know what you're looking at, it can be the note A. It can be that sound. It can be A sharp. It can change because of the way you're able to interpret the notation. And it seems to me, you're a composer, in a musical sense, and you can't hear that music that's on a page until it gets rendered, but you're hearing it in your head ahead of everyone else, obviously.
Exactly.
But it seems to me that you might not be a violinist, but you're the composer who's heard the music first.
I do feel that way. And what has also helped me overcome this barrier that I put up, or this pressure that I put on myself, is my brother. My brother's an architect. My brother is brilliant. He's totally artistic. And, I go and I look at his properties that he builds, and he's not hammering and building it. He's designing it and overseeing it. And that gave me a lot of peace, being able to see that and know that maybe it's okay. Maybe I'm so old-fashioned that I think that an artist is supposed to do everything themselves. But then I look at other artists, Jeff Koons or whoever, and I don't know that they're in there doing their own thing either. So, maybe this is the new generation and I'm just a little older. So it's taken me a little bit longer to get to that point to accept the fact that this can be the way. But really, to me, it doesn't matter because I like what I do. I'm thrilled with my work. I'm meticulous about the work. I'm meticulous about making sure that the message that I have inside my head at the point of design is properly done, that I'm designing it with the most minute movements of space, color. Where are these cutouts? Each cutout is in a place for a reason. Andy's piece behind her, my father is the lower one. The two other brothers are kind of next to each other like this. I played with that I played with that for days, getting the placement right, because I needed to show that my dad was separate from his brothers, but that they were all three, a team of these three doctors. So that's what I do. Lawrence?
Oh.
Lawrence Weiner says here, he offered this instruction. The artist need not make the work beautiful installations of bold shapes. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Lawrence. I can't see you, but thank you. Thank you for that.
It was actually Floyd Elzinga. He is sending you the message about Lawrence Weiner.
Oh, many artists. Oh, okay. And here's Dana. Yes. Big secret of the whole art world. Many artists work like you. Wow. Good to know.
I wanted to say.
Lloyd, what were you going to say?
Yeah, sorry, I sent my message before I pieced it all together, but you need not. The Lawrence Weiner was a conceptual artist, and the whole conceptual art movement was based on that idea that you need not make the work for it to be a bold or your work, and even to the point that you need not even make the work in the end. That all you need to do is think about the artwork, and it then is an artwork in and of itself, and that your work is actually pointing to something. And I really love your shapes and your bold designs. And my question for you is about your choice of automotive paint and whether that has other reasons, or if you could just talk about your choice for using automotive paint, and in particular I know you talked about the colors being bold and bright, but I wondered if you have a connection with the type of car referenced in the color as well. If you could just talk about that, I'd be interested.
Certainly. My father loved cars. He loved vintage cars. And so when I designed the piece the first night, that my father died, I said, okay, well, I'm going to do this piece in Ferrari Rosa Corsa red to show the love in my heart for my father, red being iconic for love, and the fact that my father loved cars. He loved cars. And so I wanted to honor him by using automotive paint. So yes, the color is very important. So for example, I did an exhibit at the Museum of Ventura County, and I wanted to do an entire exhibit dedicated to my father. And my dad's name was Saul Robert Cozen, S-O-L. I did that exhibit, and there were about 15 pieces in that show, and they were all done in Maserati yellow. And we named the show Sol, S-O-L. Sol for my father, but Sol in Spanish for the sun. So I wanted to walk into this entirely bright Maserati yellow room, which is what I did. So yes, the colors play a very important part. Why did I pick black for foundations, for example? Because it's the deepest, most sturdy color that I know, even though it's not a color. Why did I choose white for bounce, where those three ovals are bouncing? Because I wanted to show the lightness of, children leaving the nest and bouncing out. So yes, each piece and the color is very, very important to me. Did I answer? Is that good, Floyd? Yeah. Okay.
Bunny, you had a question or a comment. Bunny, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm trying to gather the words. This has been so inspirational, Lori.
Thank you.
I'm a psychologist by training. I retired recently, and I still have trouble seeing the A word, artist, even when people respect my pieces. I don't know if it's more a female thing or not, but it takes time. You're sharing about your family and how they were an inspiration and continue to be. It's very, very touching. And I've been struggling with a set of pieces in memory of my mother, who just before she died said she used to have all these full boxes in her head, and then they were all empty, and how it was so scary. That was her journey with dementia. And so I've been working on 3 boxes in different media, but that pull, that push, that drive to memorialize people who meant so much for us, as using the A word as artists, I think is really, really important. So thank you so much for sharing it. It really resonates with me.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Phyllis.
Phyllis, you have to Phyllis, turn on your microphone. Turn on your microphone.
Okay, got it. I just wanted to say that I've known you for 45 years. And all the times that you and I have discussions about anything in life, we never talk literally about what each piece means to you and how it was developed. And when at the beginning of your presentation, when you talked about all the different pieces and what they mean, and where your head was when you were designing them, I thought, this is so much of your personality that is in every single piece, which we have never discussed. And my heart was getting bigger and bigger listening to where you were coming from when you designed these pieces, because every piece is so you. You're the kind of person that one can go to and talk about anything, and you always have sage advice. And I feel like your sage advice comes through in all of your work. So this was
thank you, Phyllis. Oh, wow, thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you. Yeah, there's several of you out here in the audience that I've known for 40 plus years. I thank you all for being here. And I see Ken riding up in Paso Robles. Right, Ken? Is your mic on, Ken? No.
Turn your mic on, Ken.
No.
Sorry, we can't hear you, Ken. There you go.
That's on now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, I'm a collector of art, not an artist. I've totally enjoyed all of your work. The pieces I have one here in the house. I have one in my, I have a condominium in San Francisco. That's where the other one is. And I look forward to seeing them all the time. The first one I bought them both at the same time. First one though was the Ferrari red with a little triangle out of it. And Lori was so correct about the shadows, because the way we have that one hung, the lights are way up high and they come down right over the point of the little triangle in the piece in the left side, and it just makes a number of little triangle shadows, about 3 different depths of shadows. Wonderful.
Thank you.
The other one that I have is I guess I don't know what color blue you call it, Lori. It's kind of a powder blue with
blue.
What is it?
It's Scrubs blue. I tried to color matched it to look like doctors or nurses' scrubs.
Oh yeah. Well, we enjoy them all, and I appreciate very much being able to hear all the story here. I know I heard the story about your father earlier, but I didn't recognize or realize that all the different stories for all the different designs. So thank you.
Thank you.
Kim, you had a question, I think.
Yes, I just was wondering what percentage of your work is done as outdoor installations, and can you speak a little bit about the process and the scale of the outdoor work?
Yes, actually, I can. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, can I go back to my website and show you something on standing pieces and I can explain it? Is that okay? Let's see if I know how to do that, Abby. Let's see. Okay, here we are.
You're still the presenter, so
Okay. Okay.
There
I
you
just
go.
want to. Okay. So let me go up to. Oh, I can't. Showing screen, but it's not. Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry. I'm not very technological. So, okay. I want to go to wall. I want to go to standing, and I'm going to answer your question, Kim. So,
Okay.
I started when I did these chatterbox cubes. I started doing them very large and as outdoor pieces. And I started doing outdoor pieces. Outdoor pieces came long after, let's see, I did my first piece in 1986, the red, Ferrari red for my father. I did a few pieces after that. And actually, let me tell you this story because it's kind of interesting. So I did that piece. I did a few other pieces. And a gallery, and remember, I didn't go to art school and I wasn't really an artist, but I did these pieces and somebody heard about what I was doing. She called me and said, I hear you have some art in your house. I'd like to come and see it. I said, okay. So she came out and she said, well, do you have 10 pieces? And I said, no. And she said, well, can you do 10 pieces? And I said, yes. And she said, okay, well, she said, I have a gallery in Santa Monica. I'll give you a solo exhibit if you do 10 pieces. And I just put my book under the bed and said, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have no art background. I don't know, I don't know. And I didn't do it until I turned 50. So a lot of my pieces speak to the boldness of me coming out and deciding that I'm going to do this, irregardless of my lack of background of education or doing it myself. These pieces that you can see, which are standing pieces, are out of stainless steel, and they're called raw because the finish of them, they're chatterboxes, but they're raw because the finish is a very swirled finish, and they really reflect the light. Here they are in front of Greystone Mansion in Beverly Hills, where they're done in polished stainless steel, and they're quite large. This large one here is a 30-inch. And this is a 30-inch, an 18-inch, and a 12-inch. I love these. These are called, well, this is Timeline and Circle of Life. So isn't it true that, things come back full circle? So this piece, which is 60 inches long, 9 inches wide, and 3 inches thick, it's brushed aluminum. And this sits on the wall, this stands, and that's about, okay, so you can see the shadow here, right, everyone? Everyone can see that? So this speaks to, the circle of life. This is Timeline here, where you've got infinity, the length of infinity, and then you've got the cutout piece, which is where are we within the timeline. So yeah, these are my standing pieces. And if I were to do any of these painted pieces that are done out of wood for standing outdoor pieces, they would be done out of metal. This is a tabletop piece. So let's see. Okay. I'm trying to get out of this. Okay, here we are. Okay, I don't know that I even answered your question. I sort of forgot what it was.
I just wanted to know the process and then what percentage of your work is dedicated to sort of outdoor installations.
Oh, okay. So I would say it's much more recent that I've begun doing outdoor pieces. Let's see. I actively became an artist 17 years ago, where my work started to, be in galleries. And I would say 5 years ago, I started doing outdoor pieces. And I love doing them because you get this reflective quality with doing outdoor pieces because you get the sun. And on my work, particularly if I use that swirled finish, it's like a light show out there when the sun hits it. So I would say right now, I don't know, 20% of my work is outdoor and 80% isn't, but I want to shift that. I really want to be doing outdoor public work in public spaces, out pieces in front of large buildings, because I see the scope of my work going that way. And I'd love to be doing that too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Lori, I would like to, on behalf of all of us, just thank you so very much for your generosity today. I think taking the time to talk about your work is really a special treat, and I learned a great deal. And so I want to thank all of you for being a part of that conversation too. And so thank you to Lori very much. That was great. I want to just, yes, everyone can applaud. We'll have a moment of applause.